back there.
I just wanted to ask a question. You had mentioned earlier about the Cultic Awareness Network.
Yeah.
Kind of not involved in deprogramming, kidnapping, and also how more experts on cults should advise the FBI. And I was just wondering about the contact that Rick Ross, who was the expert for the Cultic Awareness Network, had with the FBI, who was actually encouraging the actions of the engagement.
Yeah. The Cult Awareness Network, the entity, the Cult Awareness Network, which is a nonprofit educational organization, does not support, endorse any kidnapping or deprogramming activities, but they are concerned about destructive cults, and they are a source for information and referrals. There are individuals who subscribe to their newsletters and go to their conferences who engage in forcible attempts at interventions to help people involved with destructive cults, like Rick Ross. I have no love for Rick Ross. In fact, I'm glad you mentioned him, because at the point that the FBI was shining the bright lights and doing the auditory barrage, I criticized it. I was quoted in numerous newspapers and AP and such. And Rick Ross called me and said, "Steve, you don't understand what's going on. The FBI knows what they're doing. Don't say these things critical of the FBI." I said, "Rick, the FBI doesn't know what the hell they're doing. They're torturing people. They're reinforcing Koresh's worldview, and they're making people even more vulnerable." And yes, he was consulted by the FBI. He's the only person that I am aware of that even has any connection with the Cult Awareness Network, in the sense of that he even has attended some of their meetings. And I think personally that that the FBI made a major error to rely on and even talking with him, because he was never in a cult himself. He doesn't know how to think like a cult member. And in my experience, my ability, because of my first-hand experience, to be able to go inside the mindset is what helps me to have empathy, and also to have an awareness of what to say and how to say it. Groups like destructive cults, some of which I've mentioned before, have created an image that there's this multi-million-dollar international neo-Nazi group of kidnappers who like to beat and torture people out of new religious groups, and they're the Cult Awareness Network. And the reason why Waco went up in flames was because the Cult Awareness Network was really behind the FBI, and it's all these evil people. And I say, that's just cult propaganda. That's bull. That is not correct. Wrong, wrong, wrong. That's my personal opinion, and it's based on 20 years of my experience. Did you want to say something? Because your hand was up 40 times.
Do you think, I mean, just disregarding the end outcome, do you think the government is justified conducting a raid on the Branch Davidian?
Oh, an armed raid with 80 agents, the way they did it? No. But do I think they were justified in going there to look for firearms and to investigate claims of sexual abuse of minors? Absolutely.
Right there. People who conducted the raid were the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Now, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms has exactly one mission, as defined by the United States government, that is collecting taxes on alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. Why were they involved in supposedly protecting children?
I don't have an answer for that, and I'm not a defender of the U.S. government. If you've heard anything that I've said in previous minutes.
David Koresh and the Branch Davidian were investigated twice by Texas state authorities, and no child abuse was found. You know that?
Well, I'm aware that it's difficult to use ordinary self-report types of things with destructive cults. You can't go into a destructive cult as an agent of the enemy government and say, by the way, is anyone harming you? Because they'll say, no, not at all, I'm fine. One of the most powerful things, and anyone who's really interested in getting to the underpinning of mind control with David Koresh, is looking at the artwork of the children who were released during the siege, done and evaluated by a trauma specialist named Dr. Perry. If anyone doubts that mind control exists, look at the artwork that was done by these kids, and it is so clear. The split of identity, the incredible fear and indoctrination in terms of going up in flames and the outside world and such, and a completely diminished, as opposed to a healthy sense of self-identity and normal relations, as would be depicted in the artwork of a healthy child. Who hasn't asked a question yet? Yes?
What enabled the people who were released, the children who were released between the 1st and the 22nd of March? Do you have any ideas about how come they were allowed to leave or chose to leave?
They were not any of Koresh's own children, I know that much, and I believe some of the adults were the ones that were bringing the kids out, the ones who had walked out. And those were people who clearly had problems with what was going on there. In other words, they weren't totally under the spell any longer of David Koresh, and they wanted out. And David didn't want people who were asking questions there. In fact, I could understand how the FBI was thinking, well, yeah, the more people we get out of the situation, the more people we can save, and that is right thinking on one level. But from a perspective of trying to undermine the totalitarian control that David Koresh had, it was actually better to keep people who were doubting with those other people inside instead of weeding them out. I'm not saying that I would have done that, but yes. Yeah.
Getting back to the Cult Awareness Network, Galen Kelly, who is a member of the Cult Awareness Network, was recently convicted of kidnapping.
Correct.
The FBI...
Being a member of the Cult Awareness Network means that you pay $30 and you subscribe to their newsletter, which I believe he did.
Well,
But cult groups like to say, oh, he was an agent of the Cult Awareness Network. The Cult Awareness Network kidnaps people and beats and tortures them. It's just not true in my experience. But you can say it over and over again, and you can say it, and you can say it, and you can say it, but... I haven't said it. No. Wasn't pointing at you. Yes?
The whole point about that is I think the FBI is really starting to frown on them as an organization dealing with cults.
That's not my understanding that anyone is frowning about the Cult Awareness Network. They have top lawyers, top mental health professionals involved with the organization, and I think they do a good job. I have not given a speech for the organization in years. I am not a member of the Cult Awareness Network. If you buy my book and read it, I do recommend them as a source of information about cults and mind control. And I'm also aware of a new project that's being started called FACT, which is a computer database for collecting information about destructive cults that anyone can dial in with a modem and download files about destructive cults. And I think that's the future. And that way people can find out information much more easily and quickly and without the human component inside there.
One of